Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Anti-Defamation League Jurisprudence Luncheon. Please welcome our event co-chairs, Marcy Greer and Lisa Kaufman.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2015 Anti-Defamation League Austin Jurisprudence Luncheon. I am Marcy Greer. I'm one of the co-chairs of the event, and it gives me great pleasure to join you today to celebrate the work of ADL Austin and to recognize two people in our community who really stand out, who make our city and our society better. Our distinguished honorees, my esteemed law partner, Wallace Jefferson, the former Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, and Catherine Morse.
My name is Lisa Kaufman, and I am an ADL board member and the other co-chair of today's event. We appreciate you being here today to support the mission of ADL, to end the defamation of the Jewish people, and to secure justice and fair treatment for all. Our society is a better place because of the steadfast work that ADL has done over the past century. Our efforts include contributing to the unmasking of the Ku Klux Klan and helping Representatives Thompson and Senator Ellis create and pass the James Byrd Jr. hate crimes law. Unfortunately, our work is not over. Anti-Semitism is rampant around the globe, hate groups like ISIS are gaining ground, and we continue to have civil rights challenges here at home, like in Missouri and New York.
Fortunately, an organization like ADL that works to combat hatred and bigotry and build communities that respect and celebrate our differences offers us hope. Here in Austin, the ADL's No Place for Hate initiative empowers schools to promote respect for individual and group differences while challenging prejudice and bigotry. No Place for Hate reaches more than 300 campuses from 14 districts across Central Texas. And last year, our own Austin ISD was named the largest No Place for Hate district in the country. ADL Austin also convenes the Austin-Travis County Hate Crimes Task Force to create a forum that fosters open dialogue about hate and discrimination and strengthen the bonds in our community. Hate Crimes Task Force membership has surpassed more than 150 people, representing over 50 different government, education, civil rights, and law enforcement organizations, all working together to eradicate hate.
While many of you are familiar with ADL's civil rights and anti-bullying efforts, you might not be as aware of the deep relationship ADL has with law enforcement. ADL's Center on Extremism investigates, monitors, and reports on white supremacists, anti-government fanatics, homegrown Islamic extremists, and other fringe elements. ADL provides law enforcement with actionable intelligence as well as testifying as expert witnesses. More than 90,000 law enforcement officials have gone through ADL training. From the streets to cyberspace, ADL is there to fight hate. Just last summer, ADL convened the leaders of Facebook, Google, and Twitter and helped launch an industry alliance and initiative to prevent the use of hate speech on the internet.
This is not easy work. To stand in the face of hate, whether it is in the form of bullying or physical violence, requires courage. And it has never been more important that we stand together. We invite you to join us in this important work. We challenge you to act when faced with bigotry, to choose to educate rather than to perpetuate ignorance, and to stand up and join ADL in our steadfast fight against hate.
Before we begin lunch, we would like to recognize some very special companies, individuals, and organizations that made today possible. Deborah and Richard Rudy, and Dr. Steve Ungerleider and Ms. Joanna Rice. Your leadership, not only as our lead sponsors, but also in your stewardship of ADL as lay leaders and board members, is an example to us all. Alexander, Dubose, Jefferson, and Townsend. From the moment we began planning this event, your office has been an incredible partner. We appreciate your generosity in supporting the important work of ADL. Walmart and Nancy and Bruce Zimmerman, thank you. Your continued support year after year makes a huge difference. And a heartfelt thanks goes out to our other generous sponsors. Your contributions today make it possible for ADL to proudly serve this community throughout the year.
We would also like to thank our past honorees, almost all of whom are here today. If you could please hold your applause until the end, we would appreciate it. President Bill Powers of the University of Texas System, Pete Winstead, and Clark Heydrich, all of whom have received the Jurisprudence Award. Thank you. We'd also like to recognize the prior recipients of the Trailblazer Award who are here today. The Texas Supreme Court Permanent Judicial Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, Sander Shapiro, and my good friend, Howard Wolf.
Finally, we would like to thank our steering committee, who has worked tirelessly to make today's event a success. Our distinguished honorees, former Chief Justice Wallace Jefferson and Catherine Morris, and all of you for taking the time to be with us today.
And now it is our pleasure to welcome the Reverend Elizabeth Zarelli Turner, the rector of St. Mark's Episcopal Church here in Austin, to the podium to give the invocation.
Let us pray. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol naya bidvaro. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, through whose word everything comes into being. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who told your prophet Micah that you have shown us what is good, and that is to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. We give thanks to you, Lord our God, for the work of the Anti-Defamation League and their commitment to justice and mercy, for their tireless opposition to all forms of bigotry and hatred, for their defense of democratic ideals, and for their protection of all civil rights. We give thanks to you for those being honored this afternoon, for Catherine Morse and her advocacy for quality early childhood education, and for former Chief Justice Wallace B. Jefferson and his efforts to reform juvenile justice in our state. We give thanks for their commitment to justice and mercy. And we give thanks for this meal we are about to share. Bless this food to our use and us to your service and to the service of others. Keep us mindful always of the needs of others. Amen. Please enjoy your lunch. The program will begin momentarily.
If I could have everyone's attention, please. I have made a promise to the Supreme Court of Texas that they will be out of here on time, so I have to keep my word on this one. My name is Renee LaFair, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Regional Director of the ADL Austin. I am delighted that you are all here today. Your presence speaks volumes about our honorees and the importance of ADL's mission and work. I get to recognize the dignitaries who have honored us by attending today. Once you are called, if you would please rise and stay standing, I would appreciate it. An audience, for us to end on time, if you could please hold your applause to the end, that would be most appreciated. So here we go. Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush, the Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives, Joe Strauss, Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, Nathan Hecht, Justices of the Texas Supreme Court, Don Willett, Deborah Lehrman, John Devine, Paul Green, Jeff Brown, Jeffrey Boyd, Phil Johnson, Eva Guzman. Former Justices of the Texas Supreme Court, Craig Enoch, Harriet O'Neill, Texas State Senators, Rodney Ellis, Kel Seliger, Jose Menendez. Texas House of Representative members, Donna Dukes, Charlie Guerin, Donna Howard, Celia Israel, Eric Johnson, Elliot Neistat, Eddie Rodriguez, Sanfronia Thompson, and Paul Workman. From the Third Court of Appeals, we have Chief Justice Jeff Rose, Justice Bob Pemberton, Justice Cindy Olson Borland, Former Chief Justice Woody Jones. Chief Justice of the 10th Court of Appeals, Tom Gray. U.S. District Judge Lee Yackel. Federal Magistrates Andy Austin and Mark Lane. District Court Judges Clifford Brown, Karen Crump, Rhonda Hurley, Amy Meacham, or Linda Naranjo. County Court at Law Judges Elizabeth Earle and Gisela Triana. Austin City Council members Leslie Poole, Sabino Renteria. Travis County Sheriff Greg Hamilton, Travis County Tax Assessor Collector Bruce Elfont, Travis County Attorney David Escamilla, Austin Chief of Police Art Acevedo, Austin City Attorney Karen Kennard, AISD Superintendent Dr. Paul Cruz, AISD Board of Trustees President Gina Hinojosa, President of the University of Texas at Austin Bill Powers, Chief of Police at the University of Texas at Austin David Carter, President of St. Edward's University Dr. George Martin, FBI Special Supervisory Agent Dan Snow, and of course, Mayor Steve Adler and Chief Justice Wallace Jefferson, both of whom you will hear from shortly. If I have, oh, yes, go ahead. If I have inadvertently missed anyone, now's the chance for you to let me know that. Okay, all I can say is with that group is wow. Chief and Catherine, I hope you can tell by the attendance in this room how much this community appreciates you both. And I'd like to welcome Clark Heydrich, shareholder at Graves, Doherty, Huron, and Moody, and the 2013 Jurisprudence honoree, to introduce our keynote, Steve Adler.
Thank you, Renee. It's a privilege to introduce our new mayor, Steve Adler. If Steve were standing here right now, and he will be in just a second, he would tell you that the best part of his life is that he is married to Diane Land and that he has 3 wonderful daughters, Sarah, Susan, and Karen, a group of strong women who are the lights of his life. He may say that again when he gets up here, we'll see. Steve grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. He graduated from Princeton University with a BA from Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs, and then attended the University of Texas School of Law. Steve and his colleagues at the firm of Barron and Adler have built one of the leading condemnation law practices in the state. In the course of that practice, Steve has also handled a number of civil rights employment discrimination cases representing minority workers and women seeking equal treatment and redress from sexual harassment. Steve has also, from time to time, taken out of his practice to serve our state, working in various capacities for the Texas legislature on a range of issues, including school funding formulas, teacher salary issues, state budget policy, and environmental protection. Steve has served the Austin community in a number of roles. I would certainly note for this audience that he has served as chair of the Anti-Defamation League, served on the National Commission of ADL, and was a driving force behind the creation of ADL's Community of Respect initiative for business. Moreover, Steve helped to found and grow the Austin office of ADL from a small satellite to a regional office in its own right. Steve has also served as chair of the board of the Texas Tribune, the chair of Ballet Austin, and a board member of Girls Empowerment Network and Breakthrough, a program for high school students who would be the first in their family to go to college. Steve is a person of faith and an active member of Temple Beth Shalom. Finally, in introducing Steve, I would mention a few qualities that have jumped out at me as I've gotten to know him. First, Steve's is not a loud voice, but a thoughtful one. He is not quick to speak, but eager to listen and learn. Second, deep in his core is a respect and concern for every human being in our city and in our region. And he is determined that Austin will be a place where all of us, and not just some of us, will have opportunities and lives of respect. Third, Steve has an incredible ability to help people bridge over their differences and find common ground. Perhaps he learns this at the Woodrow Wilson School or from those strong women he lives with. But I've seen him in his law practice and his community service work, building a consensus and common ground among people I never thought could come together. We need that quality in public service desperately, and he will surely need it in his new role. Lastly, Steve is proactive and not reactive, and he does not shrink from trying new approaches to critical challenges and understands that some of these new approaches will work and some will not. And he also understands that he or she who challenges the status quo will often draw fire. I'm delighted to have a mayor who's prepared to develop and consider new ideas that challenge us all. And I hope that we will respond to that challenge by becoming involved and actively supporting Steve whenever we can. He will need it, and our community will be better for it. It is a great honor to now present to you our mayor, Steve Adler.
Lest there be any question, the best part of my life is Diane Land and my 3 strong daughter women who incidentally have put me, I think, in a great place to be dealing with the 7 strong women on our city council. It is great to be with you here today to join in honoring and celebrating the mission of the Anti-Defamation League. And we do that today by honoring 2 leaders who exemplify courage and compassion that help keep democracy healthy in good times and in tough times. Chief Justice Jefferson, I just want to say, sir, that it is comforting to be standing in front of you and the Texas Supreme Court knowing that I don't have to answer any questions today. And Catherine Morse, General Counsel for Samsung, who I had a chance to meet over the course of this last campaign and see how many different places in the community she's involved. The ADL is all about preserving democracy as well. And it does this by securing just and fair treatment for not only the Jewish people, but by its very written statement of purpose, written 100 years ago, to secure just and fair treatment for all people. Now, hopefully you know about ADL's work in tough times and tough situations, because it's there that the ADL's work is really critical. We hear too many stories these days about violent extremists, about violent attacks on people because of their race or their faith. And these stories are hard to hear, and we're eager to ignore them or forget them or to think about something else. But of course, violence can't happen without this ignoring and this forgetting. Because before the guns and before the bombs and before the terror, there are thoughts and there are words. You know, in Germany after World War I, most of the people were real decent people. They were reasonable. There were only a few extremists that crossed over the line. Only a few outspoken people who were demonizing others and talking seriously about ideas and thoughts that would later to develop into final solutions. But there were other people that were close to that line. They hadn't crossed over. And with each passing day, as the economy got tougher and people became more fearful, more and more of those people began to cross over that line. And no one spoke out, or too few spoke out. It was a tough time, and some folks were scared, and some folks were busy, and some folks were just indifferent. Some folks didn't notice. And because not enough spoke out, the line between what is right and what is wrong started blurring over, and it began to shift until a critical mass of people had crossed over that line, and then it was too late. At times like this, it is hard to speak up. It is hard to be the lone voice. Just think about the last time you were in a group of people and someone said a joke that might have led to a racial slur or an off-color mention. And what did you do? You're around friends, you're around acquaintances, it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. It is so much easier just to let the moment pass. And so often we do. But that's why ADL is important. They stand up to prejudice, they call out hatred, and they hold us accountable for the tolerance that prevents violence and the respect that nourishes democracy. And they do it daily, and they do it when it is awkward to do it, even when the transgression is small. Probably especially when the transgression is small. Make no mistake, we see too much real evil in this world, real threats to our freedom and safety. Many have become big, and some threats have remained small. But we can only stand up to them if we resist the fearful and lazy habit of demonizing people because they are different. That's why the ADL is important, and that's why Diane and I support it. But that reactive and curative role is not enough. We have to do more than just fight unjust discrimination. We've got to affirmatively build respect. We must work harder to actively include those who are left out and to bring more people to the table. We've got to clear a path for real justice. Now, in Austin these days, we're talking a lot about inclusion. We've just inaugurated a brand new city government and a brand new city council with district representation, one member from each of 10 districts. This is a huge change from the old days. And by old days, I mean last December, when the City Council of Austin, every person serving on it lived north of the river and south of 45th Street. We have new voices and new communities sitting at the table of leadership for the very first time. And a lot of people say it can't work. A lot of people say that such a diverse group of people won't be able to agree on anything, and that we're going to end up with gridlock and with ward politics. That artists and families and longtime residents will continue to be priced out of this city, that traffic congestion will get unimaginably worse as our environment deteriorates. That simply put, Austin will lose its soul. I don't think so. You know, some of us see in this diverse group of people leaders as the only way to make real progress in this city. Because only by passing ideas through this furnace are we going to be able to forge the real solutions that can become durable solutions and move us forward. We just lost a transportation bond in this city election on what is perhaps the most important issue in this city. And I wonder if a contributing factor was that all parts of this community were not on our governing boards. We have got to host more inclusive conversations. And until we do, our problems will seem bigger than our ideas. And worse, we will begin to see each other as the problem. Which is not to suggest that any of this is easy. I'm finding that out now. I'm sure you can imagine 10 people from different perspectives, different parts of town, different assumptions and opinions, talking about pressing matters, that relate to justice and quality of life and economic opportunity and how to pay for it all. There is no ready majority on our city council. For this council to reach a majority on any issue will require new coalitions across lines that have not often been crossed in this city. And this will put to test the innocent comfort of lazy generalizations, the understandable tendency to see things from your own front porch, to default to conversations that you've rehearsed, which is what you'd expect. But here's what you might not expect. We decided we needed to learn about Austin's challenges and opportunities. We set up policy forums, meetings as a council that we're engaging in. We read and we hear about experts and we discuss issues without any decisions to be made on the table. We have conversations. We learn about each other, where we come from, the strengths and challenges facing our constituents. These sessions are popular with the council, and they are now even more popular with the wider community. We're practicing with each other, listening and understanding, and we're building trust. We're discovering the shades of gray where inspiration hides. We're practicing connectedness, inclusion. So when the division, when the divisive conversations come, and of course they will be coming, that we're going to be ready and we're going to be stronger. We are trying to move from tolerance to respect, to not only recognize differences, but to actively seek to find value in those differences. This is the work of the ADL. The ADL protects minorities. The ADL protects us all. Without this conscience, as we've seen, democracy can degenerate. Free people can lose their humanity. In pursuing this mission, the ADL's spirit challenges us to build beyond tolerance, to extend ourselves to include those who are different, because that's where we'll find new insights, and that is the work of justice. Underneath our cultural skirmishes, underneath our fear and fascination with each other, is something deeper and more reliable. We need each other. And when things get tough, we need each other even more. We are stronger, better, smarter, and more powerful together. The work of the ADL, the example of the leaders that we are honoring today, is not just a matter of conscience. It is a reliable source of inspiration for the value that we are trying to create in our economy, in our government, and in our communities. It is the conversation that will sustain us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. It is a pleasure to call you our mayor. With all the challenges the world is facing, we have to work together to be effective. Look at this room. We are lawyers, business professionals, educators, elected officials, and judges. And we represent many branches of government and schools and civil rights organizations and law enforcement. ADL is strong because of its volunteer and lay leadership. I challenge each of you to join us in our work. Volunteer at the No Place for Hate Youth Summit. I did it last year, and it was an incredible experience. Lend us your expertise in our Civil Rights Committee. Enroll your summer associates in our about-to-be-launched Summer Research Associate Program. Invest financially, as this makes ADL possible to do its work. There are envelopes on your table. Please take a moment to mark your areas of interest, commit your time, your expertise, and your financial investment. Please leave the envelopes on your table, and we will collect them later. There is much influence in this room. Together, we have the power to make a difference. I hope you will join us.
I was reading an article. She was interviewed by one of the many, publications who have interviewed her, and it was asked, what character in literature or film do you identify with the most? And she says, a female version of Forrest Gump, which made me laugh at first, but the nice qualities in Forrest Gump are the nice qualities in Catherine. She's a smart female Forrest Gump maybe not quite as good a ping pong player.
Well, Catherine is all about equality and justice. I mean, the most important things to her are that everyone should be treated the same and that each person has value, whether they have an incapacity, whether they have a disability, whether they've had an educational or personal setback that keeps them from being the full person that they are. She looks past that. She doesn't see those infirmities. She sees who the person is and what their potential is. And she's very passionate about causes and about justice.
At Samsung, Catherine has really taken her community involvement and consideration to the next level in using the resources that are made available to her to be engaged in various boards and help our community move ahead.
You know, I think in her work and her professional life, she feels that this isn't just a job, it's actually a calling, and it is the perfect opportunity for her to be able to use what she feels is important in life and make a difference in other people's lives.
I honestly believe the greatest gift that Catherine gives the people around her is showing us that you can overcome personal circumstances and issues and crises and exhibit a level of resilience that is absolutely inspirational to those of us who watch her.
Her job is not just it's not just getting up and putting her 8 hours in. It's actually being able to go out and do good in the world, and it's so natural for her that I don't think she thinks twice about it.
It really means the world, not only for me, but for the family. To see how much hard work she's put in, off the scenes as well as on the scene. It means the world, and I know it means the world to her to be, even acknowledged with this award. So, I'm proud of her, and the whole family is, and it's great to see that she's been able to receive such a prestigious award.
I've had the pleasure and privilege of knowing Catherine Morse for over 20 years. She is a true leader in our community in so many ways and fits the ideals of the ADL in so many ways. From her work at Samsung, from her work with United Way, from her dedicated involvement to making preschool more accessible to the less fortunate, Catherine is truly deserving of the ADL Trailblazer Award today.
The Trailblazer Award is presented to an individual or organization whose pioneering contributions to the legal and/or civic activism arena have had an extraordinary and unique impact. Today, we honor our good friend Catherine Morse with this award. Catherine said it well when she was once interviewed. We have a hip Austin that's leading the nation in job growth, and we have a huge swath of Austin that's getting left behind. And it's that huge swath of Austin that is the focus of Catherine's efforts in all that she does. After suffering a personal tragedy that few of us could overcome, a severe injury to their youngest child, Catherine and Kevin had a choice. And they have chosen to live their lives to the fullest, celebrating the milestones of both their sons and reaching out to help others who are less fortunate. For example, Any Baby Can helped the Morses during their time of need. And that was one of CAT's first causes. That organization had no idea and could not have known what a force of nature was coming their way. That was just the beginning, and CAT has gone on to support so many other meaningful causes, both individually and through her work at Samsung. She truly uses her connections and her infectious personality to put people together and make things happen. Austin is a better place because of Catherine Morse. Please help me welcome the Honorable Harriet O'Neill, who received the 2011 Trailblazer Award on behalf of the Texas Supreme Court's Permanent Judicial Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, to present this year's Trailblazer Award to Catherine Morse.
Wow, thank you so much. It's truly a thrill to receive this award. It's such a happy day. And, you know, speaking of happiness, I'm often asked by friends, Catherine, you seem so happy all the time. What's your secret? And you might find this hard to believe, but I'm able to pinpoint an exact moment in my life that's led to my happiness. It happened a little over 30 years ago. I came home from college over Christmas vacation. My parents pulled me aside. They said they were worried about the direction my life was taking, or actually the lack of direction it seemed to be taking. So they told me, they explained, like, Catherine, we've enrolled you in some aptitude testing. It was pretty expensive, actually, and it was very involved. I think kids still take it today. It took 2 days, and I diligently performed the test, and afterward, the head tester took us into a conference room, my mom, my dad, and myself, and was going to present the results of the test. I could tell something was wrong. He looked very chagrined. He didn't make eye contact with us. And he said, this is quite shocking. I've been doing this for many years, and these results, I'm puzzled. It would appear that Catherine actually has no aptitudes whatsoever. And I think he actually offered to give my parents their money back. But so here's the deal. If you were told you had no aptitudes, and 30 years later, you were standing at a podium getting a kind of big award in front of a room full of very important people, including the entire Supreme Court of the state of Texas, well, you'd be happy too, okay? So, but the truth is I actually discovered an aptitude or two that has kept me employed. And obviously it's absurd. Everyone has aptitudes. Each and every one of us has a unique gift to offer. And I will tell you that each and every one of us in this ballroom, notwithstanding their race, their color, their national origin, their religion, their sexual orientation, their disability, or their immigrant status, each and every one of us has equal and intrinsic worth. And with that in mind, let's all join together and make sure Austin is no place for hate. Thank you very much. Thank you.
When we're just in school talking about stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, my dad is this, my dad is this, and I'm like, oh, my dad was the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas, and they're like, what? So that's always really cool.
I wasn't surprised at all when he was appointed to the Texas Supreme Court. I thought it was an absolutely wonderful choice, a really good match, and his leadership on the court really proved that point. He was there for 12 years and became the Chief Justice, and I think it did an incredible job.
Governor Perry had to be impressed because of the fact that he had already been with an appellate firm, and also he had won 2 cases before the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C.
Wallace most exemplifies the value of equality, I think. He thinks that everybody needs to be treated the same.
He has provided for the defense of the indigent. He's been very forceful that everyone ought to have access to the courts. Everyone is entitled to present a defense, and I know he's been involved in indigent defense.
He was an advocate for the elimination of partisan politics in the selection of the judiciary. He was an advocate for recognizing in my field, an area outside of his, the over-criminalization of the criminal justice system.
And also seeing that everyone has a competent attorney. He's just been for a fair justice system, and he understands if you can't have confidence that the judicial system and the criminal justice system is fair, then we suffer as a society.
He took a keen interest in how the justice system interacted with children, those who were in foster care, those who were in trouble with the law, and he was a vigorous champion for reforming abuses throughout the system. And I think he left the state a much better place because of those initiatives.
I think at the end of the day, when he leaves this earth, I think he wants to feel like that he made a difference. And I think that's what drives him every day.
For many of us, he also had other chief justices around the country of other state Supreme Courts getting involved in social issues and making a difference in education and equality.
One of the things I really appreciated was that, I call up the Chief Justice, and he immediately takes my phone call. And I ask him a direct question, and he was very responsive. He just explained to me that, I don't know habeas corpus law, and I couldn't, in good conscience, make a decision until I did some study. The accessibility of that, not all judges, especially ones at that high a level, are that accessible, that candid about their reasoning.
I think the biggest one for me is the ability to go to some of the dinners that we go to and meet some of the people that have been able to get access to justice. Just to be able to meet people along the way and say, hey, because of your husband, I was able to go to the court hearing that I knew I would never been able to afford.
Well, congratulations, Wallace. You've made all of us who know you and have been fortunate enough to work with you very proud.
You have always been an inspiration and a role model to myself and others around you.
I hope someday you'll be back on the bench, maybe even in some higher level.
Even though he's left public office, I know he still has a commitment to better our society.
You are such a deserving recipient of this wonderful award, and I'm very, very proud to be here with you.
I'm so proud of you. Keep up the good work and do some more.
Congratulations, Dad. Another award to add to your collection.
Congratulations on this award, Wallace. Thank you so much for letting us tag along on this ride with you.
Chief Justice Wallace Jefferson has dedicated his life to the ADL mission of securing justice and fair treatment for all. We are so incredibly proud and so incredibly honored to present Chief Justice Wallace Jefferson with the ADL Jurisprudence Award today.
I know a few individuals who truly embody the core value of ADL to secure justice and fairness for all, as former Chief Justice Wallace B. Jefferson does. With a long and distinguished history as a champion for equity, the Chief has broken down the barriers, serving as the first African American on the Texas Supreme Court, while using his position to make judicial system more accessible to others. I know firsthand, session after session, the Chief has helped lead the court in fighting for funding for basic legal services, ensuring all Texans, especially those underprivileged and disenfranchised, have access to our judiciary. Under his leadership, the Supreme Court also established the Permanent Judicial Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, honored by the ADL in 2011 for their work to improve court performance in child abuse and neglect cases. Recognizing the increased school discipline has effectively criminalized children for misbehavior, Justice Jefferson pushed his colleagues to institute reform. Under his direction, the court also embraced technology and brought cameras into the courtroom, increasing the transparency in our court system for all Texans. Personally, I can't imagine having cameras in my office every day, but I applaud the effort. With humility and thoughtfulness that is legendary, the Chief Justice has deeply impacted the lives of many and made the third branch of government more accessible and just for all Americans. Please help me welcome 2013 honoree Clark Heydrich as he presents this year's Jurisprudence Award to the much-deserving Chief Justice Wallace B. Jefferson.
Lest there be any question, the light of my life is Rhonda, and you saw one of our three sons, William, Samuel, and Michael is fantastic. I want to thank you so much for that introduction, for that video. It will become cherished in my life because so many good friends spoke on my behalf. The accomplishments that were just discussed are the product of a true collaboration. I would like to thank my colleagues, present and former justices of the Texas Supreme Court, and all of the personnel in that great institution, with whom I had the pleasure to serve for nearly 13 years. We sometimes disagreed on points of law, but we were unanimous, always unanimous, on the noble effort to improve the administration of justice for all citizens. We created, as you heard, the Access to Justice Commission in 2001 to coordinate the delivery of legal services to those who cannot afford a lawyer. We created the Permanent Judicial Commission on Children, Youth, and Families to help families navigate the Byzantine court system and find loving homes for our kids. The court has endeavored to ensure that the judicial system works properly for juveniles. A new project has been formed to protect the elderly during guardianship proceedings. All of these missions and more are designed to extend the blessings of democracy to all of our neighbors, to recognize that the courts, no less than other branches of government, no less than religious and civic organizations, have an obligation to secure justice and fair treatment for every single citizen in our state and nation. Now, the Anti-Defamation League is profoundly aware that through deliberate and coordinated efforts, the scourge of prejudice, bigotry, and hate can be defeated. For more than 100 years, the ADL has been dedicated to making our country a more inclusive home for all, a country where being different is not a liability, but diversity is a cherished strength. Now just think about what ADL has accomplished in the last few generations. My parents were born during the Great Depression. Fascism was spreading across Europe, and that vile doctrine had its adherents right here in the United States. ADL mobilized and instituted the first independent fact-finding project to expose extremist individuals and organizations. That method and model has been replicated time and time again, educating our citizens to the dangers those organizations pose to a functioning democracy. During the 1950s, when my family traveled the country during my father's stint in the Air Force, many of our nation's motels would not let them in. In those same days, the Anti-Defamation League honored Rosa Parks. They filed an amicus brief to end segregation in Brown versus Board of Education, and they denounced Senator Joseph McCarthy's extremist rants. I was born in the 60s, 4 months to the day after Kennedy's assassination. I was not even a toddler when the ADL established the mobilized support for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. The nation was still afflicted by anti-Semitic sentiment during this time. Get this, 65% of Jewish students at Emory University School of Dentistry were either flunked out or forced to repeat courses during the administration of a hate-filled dean. It is very hard to imagine a Chief Justice Jefferson or a Speaker Strauss without the efforts of the ADL and like-minded patriots. Now, Rhonda and I have 3 sons. Here in Austin, they have benefited from ADL's anti-bullying and anti-cyberbullying educational training and its No Place for Hate school-based initiative. The rapidity with which hate can course through the internet is perhaps the next major challenge of our age, and the Anti-Defamation League is at the forefront in addressing the challenges of that frontier. Today, we should all imagine a world without hate. That sentiment, embodied in the core of ADL's vision, is what the founders meant by a more perfect union. I want to end by thanking my mother for joining us today. And I wanted to say to Mom, you and Dad were amazing parents, and you gave us the core to believe that we can achieve, and that, yes, Rhonda, that we can make a difference in this world. And I'm glad to share this recognition with them, with my mother and with my late father. And I hope all of us in this room will leave here inspired to defeat hate and embrace our nation's wonderful diversity. It's the greatest country on earth. Thank you very much.
I'm Robin Sperling, Chair of ADL Austin, and I'd like to thank you for joining us to celebrate the leadership and vision of our amazing honorees, Chief Justice Wallace Jefferson and Catherine Morse, who have made Austin a more respectful and just community because of their service. I truly hope each and every one of you will stay engaged and help the ADL build a world without hate. If everyone could please remain seated for a minute, just to allow the Supreme Court and other dignitaries to get to their cars, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much for being here, and enjoy your afternoon.